right, we're back on the Rob Dibble Show with Ben Darnell on your afternoon drive. And let's talk about the Mets right now. $308 million payroll, one of the top 5 in baseball, and they are 0-4. And they are just basically sitting at the bottom of the NL East, above the Marlins, who are 0-5. And it's not even as awful as you may think. It's the hitting again. And it's not just them. Right now you have, let's see, at least 10 teams that are just hitting around 200. But then you've got 5 teams hitting below 200. Angels hitting 195, Mariners hitting 189, Mets are hitting 188, Blue Jays are hitting 184, who, by the way, they were just no-hit by the Astros last night. And the White Sox are atrocious at 168. Mets, no wins. White Sox, no wins.
Even
Marlins,
the A's
no wins.
have a win.
Exactly. So the White Sox had $129 million in payroll. They dumped all their players, even traded one of their best pitchers.
Yeah.
Marlins, they're coming off a playoff berth last year. They didn't really do anything in the offseason. They changed a lot of management people, but no personnel on the field. $97 million payroll. Well, it shows. You stink.
0 for.
And yeah, you're 0 for 5 right now to start the season. And it's very, very early. But here's the problem. You should come out of spring training and you should at least have 3 solid starters, a decent bullpen, and an offensive, idea of what you want to do. So when you look at the top teams right now, and the Pirates are undefeated, they're 5-0, they're hitting 302 as a team. All right, so the Braves we know can hit, they're hitting 333, the Brewers are hitting 303. That's going to go down, but hopefully it stays where it is. Now, some of the other teams, Yankees were one of the worst hitting teams in baseball. I think they were 29th in hitting last year. They're in the top 10, right around there, at 267. They don't have a ton of home runs, but they're hitting with runners in scoring position, which is why they're winning, why they are 5-0, and why people are so excited about them so far. So you're seeing baseball being played by these top teams. You're seeing bad plate appearances, bad ideas going up there. And honestly, it's the same selfishness that we've seen the last decade. And so you have half of baseball is hitting below 250. The other half that's hitting above are the teams that are winning. They're getting enough pitching. But listen, the Yankees, Nestor Cortez had a terrible first start. They left them out there for 5 innings. They caught up. Their bullpen saved the day, kept them in there for the last 12 outs. They win that first ball game. And that changed the tempo of, here we go again, like last year. We're going to lose this game. Right. And probably the Astros roll you. They probably win the series. But because you won that first game the way you did, and you stayed with them on the road, Juan Soto played the way he did with that throw out at the end of the game, all of a sudden this is a whole new season, and we're 1-0, and that just snowballed into 4 more wins. That's what we're talking about. The Pirates, they win opening day. They've won 4 in a row after that. You know, so when you're talking about the undefeated versus but look at the plate appearances. Look at when there's a guy on second with 2 outs, who the teams are that are getting them in. You know, that's what you're talking about right now. And so the teams that are playing the best right now, and you can't count the Padres and the Dodgers because they had the 2 games in Seoul. But you look at some of these other teams that came out of spring training, including the Reds, they're getting younger players to buy into flattened swings. They are stopping that uppercut crap. They're stopping the strikeout city with, 12 to 15 strikeouts per game per team. That's not conducive to winning ball games. So we're seeing that across the board, that teams are trying to make adjustments. And another thing we're seeing, bunting. Bunting's coming back for a base hit. Bunting guys over second to third.
Love it.
Doing the little baseball things, it's coming back. And I think it is that we're getting more baseball schooled coaching in there, that guys want to go out there and actually play a baseball game instead of all the statistics and the analytics.
Now, we are having some good hitting out there. There is some good things to talk about. Mookie Betts picked up right where he left off, for all you Mookie Betts lovers out there. Bobby Witt Jr. having a phenomenal start.
He had a great year last year.
And then you have a guy like Anthony Volpe who's hitting 500, like not expecting this kind of start from this kid. And he's looking really
571
good.
to be exact.
Really good right now. And what you said about Juan Soto, I think is carrying over to some of these young guys as well.
Well, Michael Taylor's hitting nearly 500 in Pittsburgh, which helps. But again, you brought back a guy named Andrew McCutchen. You put that guy in there every day in the locker room, in the hitting meetings, around the batting cage, and he's helping younger players adapt to the day-to-day grind and saying, listen, guys, you go 0 for 12. You got to work your way out of it. You got to just try to get a 1 for 4 day going, a 2 for 4 day going, and get yourself back in a positive light and going in the right direction again. You can't go 0 for 25 or 3 for 25. Those are the kind of things that kill the lineup. And I think that right now, Volpe's going to see a lot of fastballs wherever you put him, top or the bottom of the lineup, because of all the monsters in the middle. If the guys continue to hit in the middle, top of the lineup, bottom of the lineup, it's going to be contagious. But again, going back to Juan Soto and guys like him, that's a 25-year-old guy that you're looking across the locker room at going, okay, that guy goes about his business in a really mature way. And he's got 6 years in the major leagues. But you're looking at this guy going, he's special. And why is he special? Because he does this and he does that. And he goes out and he takes fly balls off of live BP. He goes out there and he does all the things that are necessary to make you a well-rounded player. Not just a one-way player, meaning a great offensive player because you want to make a lot of money. And that's the difference. So we're getting a lot of these players. Listen, we know Volpe can play some defense. We know most of these young guys can play a little bit of defense. You wouldn't get to the major leagues if you didn't. But now you actually have to hit a little bit. So what did the Astros do? I like that Diaz that they have. They got rid of Mercado, and they brought in this guy last year, and they're like, well, this guy hits. He doesn't call the same kind of game, but we need his bat in the lineup, especially when it comes around with guys on base. And so that's going to pay dividends for them at the end of the season. A lot of these teams are going to where, okay, he might not be as strong defensively, but he adds enough offensively to where that balances out. So I just think you're seeing a lot of these guys. Will Smith is that kind of guy. Decent bat, really good at calling games. They're a very heavy pitching team, the Dodgers. And, yeah, you got Freeman, you got Mookie, you got guys like that, Shohei. They're going to do their thing. But at the end of the day, we're going to win with pitching and defense. And so that's why Will Smith got a $14 million per 10-year deal with the Dodgers. Yeah. It's not monster money, but this is consistent with what they've been doing. We want to have. They gave Glasnow a nice extension, and this is so now I'm comfortable. I come to the ballpark. I don't got every 2 weeks. I don't have to look at my check and go, this isn't enough for me to live in LA, play with these guys, and be worried. You don't have to worry about arbitration. You don't have to worry about free agency. So the guesswork is taking out a lot of these contracts.
Let's talk Sox right now. I got to remind my Red Sox friends, listen, you might have blinders on right now. You don't want to look at it. I hear you, but they're 3-2. Yep. They started on the West Coast. They split with Seattle, who we think is going to be a contender in the West. And then they've got a bunch of should-win games against the Oakland A's. Dude, how awkward is this season in Oakland? Like the protests that are going on in the parking lot. I can't believe they're even giving the parking lot money. Like, wow. And it's brutal. They had 3 or 5 errors in 3 innings. Oh,
it's a bad look for Major League Baseball they are always behind the curve. They how could you not expect this? People don't want their ball club to leave. Now, first of all, you didn't support them very well the last couple of years anyway. But the ones that do love their A's don't want them to leave. They can make enough noise to where it's uncomfortable. If you're a ball player and you got to go play in that crap, I mean, you're already almost a AAA ball club. But give Ron Washington a lot of credit. He's going to bring his A game to the table. He's very positive, and he's telling these guys, listen, as long as you're in the major leagues, you might as well play these games. And play them out. And so that's why if I'm looking at the Marlins who have no wins, or if I'm looking at the Mets who have no wins, it's not about payroll at this point. Right now, you have the team that you have, and you have to just go out there and try to be a family. And it could be a dysfunctional family, but honestly, it might be better that they got to fight their way into the locker room every day through these crowds. They're not like in the building; they're outside the building, but It's kind of like. It reminds me of the NFL when they had replacement players, and then they had to break through the strike, and the quarterbacks ended up breaking the whole thing. I think these A's, it's going to make them a little bit hardened. So you watch them go on the road. I bet they win some games on the road this year because they got fans.
The Red Sox take them on today and tomorrow. Should win baseball games anytime you're taking on this team. And the Red Sox, man, they've got some guys to brag about. Duran Duran, he's leading the league in stolen bases now.
What's up with the gray hair?
It's a thing.
I don't know.
It's a
Anybody
thing.
tell to figure that out?
Hey,
look like
me.
That.
It's like a silver. It's not
when you're
really
60,
a gray.
Yeah,
it's a silver.
It's an old man look.
He's like the Silver Surfer is what he is. He's the Silver Surfer.
Dolly Parton.
You got Casas. He's got the fingernail polish. I mean, whole new brand of players today.
Casas batting right back where you expect him to be batting, though, man. He's hitting 150 again. Oh, gosh.
I think he's a big dweller. He dwells on negative.
But they've got some, even like Devers isn't hitting yet. When Devers starts hitting and when they, get off this West Coast road trip and get back to Fenway, Red Sox aren't dog food. The Red Sox can win some ball games here, and they might be a little bit better than everyone's expecting.
I think their pitching staff's going to be better than expected. And you got Kenley Jansen's at the end of these games that he can actually close out these games. Yeah. Dude, he's throwing a 94-mile-an-hour cutter. It's fantastic. Now, I still think he's balking every time he does that little swivel hit.
Yeah,
I think he's gonna come home, and he doesn't. I don't know about that whole thing, but Tyler O'Neill's off to a very hot start.
Tyler O'Neill.
He might be like Casas, where I have to eat a lot of crow and have a big crow pie.
Yeah.
Because this guy had 9 home runs last year. He's already off to a nice hot start, hitting almost 400. Kudos to that cat. Yeah. I think he likes the American League so far.
So far, so good. So far, so good. I think it's been a fantastic first week of baseball. It's not even over yet. I just have already seen the Yankee fans. I've seen a lot more Yankee hats and Yankee jackets this week than I feel like I did all September and August.
I'm so happy for the Tigers. I thought the Tigers were going to be a miserable team.
By the way,
they're off to a great start. I know you love Torkelson. He's off to a slow start, but their pitching is good. It's solid enough to keep them in games, and they're winning these close games. White Sox, like I said, are atrocious. I thought the Royals would be a little bit better, but it's very, very early. Rangers playing well. Mariners, I thought, would play well. They've got a lot of good players on their teams. Couldn't be happier that the Astros are 1-4, but that one is a no-hitter.
No.
And when your number 5 hole pitcher goes out and throws that well, you got to be really excited. So great job by this Latin American player. And he threw his butt off, man, against the Toronto Blue Jays.
That's what I was going to ask next. What does that say for the Blue Jays? This is one of the earliest, if not the earliest, no-hitter we've ever had in a regular season.
I just, again, you've got teams that are they're changing their hitting instruction. They're changing their philosophies. They're looking towards analytics, and they're not going out there and beating the pitcher that they're facing. And the second time through the lineup, you've got to make an adjustment to where I got to put more balls in play. And I think that's the problem. And it's not just the Blue Jays. A lot of these teams are going to face pitching right now, and in a month, they will catch up to the pitching. Some of these teams are coming out of spring training, didn't play a whole lot together because guys were hitting on other fields. They weren't playing 9 innings together. Now you're getting 4 at-bats together throughout an entire game. And you know what? Guys on second base, guys are popping up. Guys are hitting into double plays. You're seeing a lot of awful at-bats right now, but I think it's way too early to judge a lot of these teams. But I think an early no-hitter, it just shows you there's so many young, great arms out there. Any given night, if you let that guy be economical, get around 100, 110 pitches, I know it's early in the season, but if he's got an opportunity to throw a no-hitter, let the guy go.
I mean, it's a really great little baseball story for Ronel Blanco representing the Dominican Republic. He does seem young to Major League Baseball, but he has been trying to get to the bigs for a long time. He is 30 years old.
He's an older guy, but you could be 30 and have a 22-year-old arm. And some of these guys, I played with Roberto Hernandez, who threw 95 miles an hour until he was 45.
Yeah,
I don't really judge the arm strength or any of that. It's more of the mental pitching kind of stuff. They've got a couple of guys on that Astros team, and it might be Valdez, Framber Valdez, that it took a while, that teams didn't believe in him for a while, and he figured it out by getting one pitch to work, a cutter. Listen, you could throw 95, but if you don't have something to go with it, it's going to be tough to pitch at that level. As you're progressing, sometimes you're like, a guy will be like, well, why don't you try changeup? Why don't you try forkball? Why don't you try this? Why don't you try that? And year in and year out, you're failing. And then you go to the Mexican League and you go to Korea and you have this Martini kid with the Reds, spent a couple years overseas. He comes back.
Been nasty.
I'm going to tell you the number one thing that is consistent with all players at this level. It's called confidence. However you become confident in whatever it needs to be. a second pitch, commanding the strike zone, being able to put balls into play more consistently. That's the difference in once you get to the major leagues. I think it's easier to get there. It's harder to stay. And that's what you're seeing with Casas right now. In his second year, there's now a book on you on what not to throw you.
Right.
So now you cannot expect to see what you saw last year. You're going to see a lot of guys trying to expand his strike zone. You're going to see guys that are going to throw up under and over his hands inside, because if you let him get extended, he's so big and strong, can hit a home run opposite field anywhere. So, guys are going to figure out how to tie you up more inside. I was watching the game the other day. They were throwing breaking balls down on his back foot. That's how I would attack you. I'd attack you fastballs away, breaking balls down at your back foot. He's got to be able to pull the hands in and pull those balls down the right field line. So he's got to make an adjustment to the adjustment being made on him this year, or else you might find a Bobby Dahlback situation where you have to go back to the minor leagues to get your confidence back.
Red Sox taking on the Astros tonight again. That one on the road in the West Coast. Orioles, by the way, they will be hosting Kansas City. Orioles 3-1 to start the season. New York Mets trying to get the winning started at home against the Tigers tonight. The Yankees on the road right here on this radio station. That is a 10 or a 9:40 first pitch, a 9 o'clock pregame as the Yankees are in Arizona and take on the Diamondbacks.
Give the Phillies a lot of credit, though. Acuna was hitting like 5,000. He came into last night's game. They struck him out 3 times in 4 at-bats. He walked 1 at-bat.
The flavor ain't going to happen very often.
No, exactly. So whatever they figured out against him, they did a really nice job on him last night. But, Phillies, the middle of that lineup are still a bunch of hammers, man. Not going to be an easy season, whoever has to face that Phillies lineup. We'll take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll do Dibbles and Bits next, and then we'll update your brackets here on the Rob Dibble Show with Ben Darnell.